We're focusing on defining what ethics is and exploring how ethics shape leadership and how it affects public leadership as well. So what are your guys' thoughts?
Well, to me, pretty much ethics is just the moral philosophy of determining what's
sorry. I knew it hurt. There we go. Enjoy this.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Again, back to what I was saying, I think ethics is just the moral philosophy of determining what's right or wrong. And it could vary among different cultures, but yeah, that's pretty much the basic definition of what I think it is. And yeah, what are you guys' opinions on it?
Yeah, I agree. I think that everyone kind of has like a really similar understanding and like kind of like way of defining what ethics is. Like if I had to give a description or definition, it would sound exactly like yours. But like in another sense, I think that like specifically leader-wise, it means like to treat your subordinates the way that you want to be treated, kind of thing. Or like if you're an employer, for example, like you want to set out an honest and kind of like positive brand like representation, so you'll do so to people who buy your product and all that kind of stuff in order to kind of have that positive branding.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. And I feel like most of us know like ethics and what ethical leadership is, so that like I didn't feel like I learned tons in that aspect, but in the text I found it really interesting. Two things was ethical leadership is really important in like the ethics of your followers. You know, like you're responsible for their actions, which I think is a huge part and the hard part as a leader. You know, like if someone in your company does something horrible, you would easily want to like cast them to the wolves and be like, I do not support them, they're not part of me, but you, like it says, you need to step up for it and be like, yes, like I should have had like ethical leaders in place, you know, and that are aware of this and like supervising it. Like I think of people who steal money all the time, you know, it's like if you had people on it, they would probably catch these things. But I think like taking action and making consequences and like being consistent, like I said, are really important. And then just the other ethical leader aspect of it that like it just brought to point, it didn't really like say which or the other, was that like as a leader to put like of course the company's goals, but is it okay to put your own personal goals as well at the same time? And it's kind of hard, like of course everyone's doing what they're doing for personal reasons, you know, and they're like a leader, a CEO of a company because they want to make money and they want to make the company well, but it's like, is that ethical to have their own personal gains? Like it just asked that question, I didn't really know the answer.
I mean, I think it's ethical to have your own goals and to have like your own personal like source of motivation, because otherwise nothing will get done. But I also think to keep it ethical for the group as a whole, you need to keep everyone's like group goals in mind too when like trying to be a leader or complete a task. Like you can't only think of your own personal goals. Like this is kind of like out of context, but in my like database project, or like in our database project, one of like the huge ones that we chose was like the path goal theory, and it was like how a leader pretty much paves a path for reaching the goal, like their group's goal, and they'll kind of lead them in that direction of succeeding in that path. And if they do so ethically, they'll have a more successful outcome. So I think that kind of plays a role in leadership and all that sort of stuff too.
Yeah, on that subject too, I think a lot of times leaders are forced to put the group goals over their ethics. And I mean, a lot of times if the company's asking you to do that, what they're asking you to do probably isn't ethical. And that plays into it too.
I agree.
Did any of the ethical perspectives stand out as something you definitely wouldn't follow or something you would follow? I know someone in the discussion boards posted about the Wall Street Journal test, where you imagine it as the headline of a newspaper, which I think is really simple, and I like that. But what I didn't like about it was that you have to assume that everything is going to be public knowledge. And then it also places all this importance on other people's perspective of what you're doing. Whereas, like, for me, I want my ethics to be about how I feel, not about how other people perceive me.
Yeah.
One of the perspectives that, like, talks about, like, ethical perspectives was the leaders as servants. I just really like that. Like,
I like that one too, yeah.
You know, like, ethical, I don't think is just, like, not doing bad things, but, like, ethics are, like, also doing the good things, you know, like we said, like, putting the company first and not doing all these selfish things. Like, it's not just, like, not doing the bad, but, like, doing good and, like, serving your followers. Like, I think those go hand in hand in ethics.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. Now, as the last part, how's it reflected in public leadership? When I automatically think of, like, politicians and, like, presidents, nominees, and, like, their public speaking abilities, and you can usually tell when someone has a good moral ethics. Usually they make it transparent, just the way they speak, and sometimes you never know. I mean, they could be lying through their teeth, but yeah, for the most part, I believe it's pretty transparent on if they have good moral character. So
I think one, like, public leadership that the book brought up was, like, Hitler and Joseph Stalin. Those are definitely two, like, obviously, like, unethical leaders that made a huge impact on the world and history and what we know today. Like, Hitler was just, like, completely using and abusing all of his power to create this perfect Aryan race that he wasn't even a part of. But with, like, his public leadership and his persuasive abilities, he got everyone to follow him and believe that, like, not everyone, obviously, but, like, all of these people to follow him and believe that he was right, even though he was completely unethical and doing everything, like, in the book that is just absolutely wrong.
yeah, definitely.
Like, with that being said, do you think people then follow, like, ethical leaders more, or, like, powerful, persuasive, like, personable leaders? You know, like, what is easier to follow?
I think it kind of depends on the person and what they believe in and what their kind of ethical code is for themselves. I think if people don't have positive ethics or are ethical, they are able to make the proper decisions or kind of, like, lean more towards an ethical leader also. But I think that it also depends on the leader as well. Like, are they very persuasive to the point where people are willing to follow them regardless of what their moral code is?
Yeah, and it also, I think it depends on their environment as
Yeah.
well. Like, if they grow up to believe in a certain way, they're gonna follow that way. And then Hitler example, he used fear and propaganda to motivate these people into believing that Jewish people were inferior to them. So it also depends on that.
Yeah, I think I agree. Fear plays a lot into power, and if someone has enough power, then
Yeah, they
you're
can
not really going to be able to care if they're ethical.
Yeah, and
You can't really fight them at some point. They just have more power than you.
yeah, and based on their influence, they can mold people in certain ways and just make them believe in what they want to believe. So,
Which is definitely unethical, but it happens a lot.
Happen.
Especially in, like, politics and government.
yeah, and ultimately it will probably lead to their downfall if they're unethical. I mean, I'm reading in chapter takeaways, just usually unethical leaders can do significant damage to their groups, organizations, societies. And clear example, Hitler, Saddam.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they all paid for their sins. So,
But, like, some ethical leaders you hear about, like, who do horrible things with their companies and then end up, like, leaving it, you know, like they get fired or they resign, they walk away with, like, millions of dollars. And to them, it was really worth it to be unethical. You know, they're like, I got my money, I'm out. Like,
Yeah. But then you have to think about it in future context. Like, how are they going to be, like, maybe, like, the last time was luck with them, like, getting this far unethically. Like, maybe the next time it'll come back and, like, bite them in the butt sort of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't know how to run a business or an organization or anything of that sort in an ethic manner. So, like, their subordinates or their followers may not follow them the second time around.
Yeah. Unless they can just sit on all that money they accumulated.
Mm-hmm.
Then that's on
Get
them.
their own islands.
Well, does anyone else have anything else to say? I'm going to stop it.
Go ahead.
I think that's it.